Hey everyone, I'm Ben. I'm one of Armory's founders. By the way, the best place to get in touch with me after the show is just in Spinnaker Slack. My handle is @Ben, nice and easy. I do want to give a huge thanks to Fatih. I don't know if he's here, but definitely Fatih, the entire CDF staff, Jennifer, everyone who participated in making this event possible. Thank you so much. How great does it feel to be back here in person? Does anyone remember the very first Spinnaker Summit? 2017, I think? Yeah, at Netflix. Yeah, okay. A couple hands, that's good. And who's here for the very first time? Okay, awesome. I see some familiar faces. Hey, Joel. And a bunch of new ones. And that's actually what I'm going to talk to you about today. Spinnaker, open sourced in 2015. That's a long time ago, that's 7 years. The product has come a very long way, and so has this community. The most advanced companies in the world are powered by Spinnaker. And Spinnaker also just hit a huge milestone. 10 million deployments every month powered by Spinnaker. This doesn't even count the installations in air-gapped environments, by the way, so the number's probably much higher. And to me, this isn't just a vanity metric. I think about the countless lines of glue code that don't have to be supported anymore because companies are using Spinnaker. I think about the countless hours in debugging saved from engineers because companies are using Spinnaker. But most of all, I think about all of the innovation that these deployments are powering because companies are using Spinnaker, not just for those companies, but also for their customers. Community. This community right here is unique and special. We're unique and special, not just because we built something amazing, but because of the way that we operate together holistically as an organization. And today I'm going to talk about organizations and organizational structure, actually. How have organizations changed and evolved over time? How has Spinnaker changed and evolved over time? And what about Spinnaker, what about us, is so special? And how does that give us a competitive advantage into the future? These colors represent different types of organizations. And the ideas I'm about to share come from a terrific book called Reinventing Organizations. And if this talk piques your interest, or if you are passionate about culture, values, organizational design, it's a must-read. Red organizations are thirsty for power, and they get it through fear. Largely in chaotic environments. You can think of the mafia, or street gangs, or the militia as examples of red organizations. Then came amber. Amber organizations introduced stability through a hierarchical chain of command. The military is a good example here. I would bet that most people in this room work at orange organizations. An orange organization is typically a for-profit company driven by innovation, and leadership leads through setting objectives. You can think of OKRs. And the teams are given the latitude to figure out the how. Next is green. Green organizations are driven more by a sense of belonging and culture and values. Some of you may have flown Southwest Airlines to come to this conference. And the staff, they're telling jokes and singing and dancing on the loudspeaker. They're not doing that for no reason. That's a very deliberate part of their culture. And finally, teal. Teal is the most advanced type of organization And the big idea in teal is this idea of self-management. And what I'm going to argue today is that we, Spinnaker, are self-managed and are a teal organization, and that gives us an advantage. Let's look at the structure of open source communities. This should be no surprise. Leaders, contributors, and users. Leaders hold what we often call the moral authority of a project. Usually, it's the creators of the project. They set the strategic direction and make big decisions. Contributors don't only write code, but they help organize the events. They provide support in GitHub and Slack. Thank you, Jason McIntosh, for everything that you do in Slack. And participate in SIGs, or special interest groups. We're going to circle back to that one in a bit. Users, of course, use the product, and they may or may not engage actively in the community. Examples, Hadoop. You've probably heard of Doug Cutting, invented Hadoop at Yahoo. He also invented Lucene, by the way. It's crazy. Contributors, I know there were more companies involved, eBay and Hortonworks and such, but for the most part, the contributorship came from one company or kind of a cluster of companies, in this case, Cloudera, and end users of Hadoop, thousands and thousands of companies using Hadoop. Another example, Terraform. Mitchell, Armon, co-founders of HashiCorp, contributors, not all, but largely the engineering teams at Hashi, and users, I'm sure most companies here are using Terraform. I know Autodesk is, thanks to that presentation. We certainly use it. Kubernetes, another example, a little bit different, but similar. Joe, Brendan, Craig invented Kubernetes. Kelsey had a hand as well in the success. And early days, Google's engineering team driving a lot of the commits. Today, when you look at the commits, it's really these 4 companies that are more than half of all the commits. So I know that there are lots of other companies contributing to Kubernetes, totally, but there's a concentration there of contributorship. And of course, we're heading into KubeCon. Thousands and thousands of companies are end users of the project. Spinnaker, circa 2016, so early days. Shout out Andy Glover and Stephen Kim. Without those two, we would not be here today. Andy and Stephen and their respective engineering teams who drove most of the contributorship, most of the code commits back at that time. And end users, everyone here, all of us. So what do these open source communities have in common? And I know it's not 100%, but largely these 3 groups are mutually exclusive, meaning the people, the human beings who are the leaders, are different than the people who are contributing the code, and different from the end users of the product. And this disconnect creates inefficiencies. What do we look like today? Today, you may have heard about the reorganization of the TOC, or the Technical Oversight Committee. So the leadership of Spinnaker comes from these companies: Home Depot, Apple, Netflix, Salesforce, Autodesk, etc. And by the way, these companies happen to also be the top contributors to Spinnaker. Also, these companies are the power users of Spinnaker. So now you have this much larger overlap in leadership, contributorship, and users. That's interesting. Why does this matter? This matters because the organizational structure that we have enables us to be a teal organization, the most advanced type of organization. Okay, cool. Well, what does that give us? The highest leverage activity that a company can make, a community can make, or can do, or even in life, is the ability to make decisions. And teal organizations make better decisions, and they make faster decisions. Okay, quick example here. How are decisions made at a traditional organization? And this should be somewhat intuitive and obvious because you all work at companies. And also, let me say that I'm describing a big decision, so not something that you have the authority to make yourself, not something that just affects your own team, a decision that affects or could affect an entire company, multiple departments, something big and strategic. So let's say Ben has a new idea. It always starts with an idea. Okay, I have an idea. I'm going to go tell my boss about this idea and get my boss really excited about it. If my boss is let's say my boss is a VP of Eng, let's just say, or maybe my boss is a director of Eng. Director of Eng has to go sell this idea to the VP of Eng. Okay? VP of Eng can't make the decision if it affects the rest of the company, so they have to go and have conversations with VP of Marketing, VP of Product, VP of People, CEO. And that's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 conversations. That's probably dozens of conversations at this point. And let's say that this new idea, everyone loves it, there's alignment now at the executive level. Okay, what happens next? Now the executives will push that decision down to all of the individual contributors. So that's conversations 6, 7, 8, and 9, but it's really not 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's, conversation 50 and 51 and 52. And that decision gets pushed down in the form of a decision framework, process, maybe tooling. And this can take more than weeks, months, or quarters to implement this type of decision. The bigger the company, the longer it takes. How are decisions made within a teal organization? Teal organizations follow what's called the advice process. The advice process starts with a big idea. Anyone can make a decision. So anyone in this room can make a decision. That's the first thing that is very, very different about this structure. However, before you make a decision, you have to seek advice. You have to seek advice from the people that your decision is going to affect, and you have to seek advice from experts. And the bigger the decision, the more people you have to seek advice from. So something small, maybe you just have to talk to a couple of people, but a big decision you have to talk to a lot. So it looks like this. And let's take a real world example. Let's say that I want to refactor, or I want to change the way that Spinnaker deploys to Kubernetes. So that's a pretty big change. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify some experts, some Kubernetes experts in the Spinnaker community. I need to get their advice. But it's not just like a check the box exercise, like I did it, now I'm going to go and do my own thing. It's not like that. You have to actually consider seriously that advice. So I'm going to go find some experts, and then I'm going to go find some users of Kubernetes. Now, back to the structure of our organization where you have the leaders who are also the contributors, who are also the power users, this process becomes fluid and organic, because now imagine that I work at the Home Depot and I want to change Cloud Driver, Kubernetes Cloud Driver. So everyone's using the V2, now I'm going to create the V3, right? So I'm at Home Depot. I'm going to now easily, where's the DC from Apple? So I'm going to talk to the DC. I'm going to talk to Cole and Jesse from Autodesk, and in a natural way, these conversations can happen much more quickly than otherwise. And speed matters. Speed matters for the companies who are using Spinnaker. Speed matters for their customers, and speed matters to us. Okay, here comes the ask. If you are not using Spinnaker today, try it. If you need help, I know a great company that can help you. If you are using Spinnaker today, consider becoming a contributor, writing code, or participating in a SIG, or organizing a meetup. If you're already a contributor, consider becoming a leader. We have plenty of SIGs that need SIG leads. Okay, well, how do I get started? I'm glad you asked. Tomorrow in Brule, is that the room? Okay, Brule. 9 a.m., Fernando from Armory will be leading the first-time contributors workshop. That is the best place to get started. And then following that, we have some SIG meetings, 11:30 a.m., the platform SIG, 1:30, Kubernetes and other cloud drivers, including AWS and GCP and Azure, and 2:40, the Docs SIG. So please pick one of these or pick multiple and participate. Thank you.